Hey, thanks for checking in. I'm making popcorn with my air popper and having some soda on the side. How was your day today? Well, I'm always glad you're here. Now let's talk about a comic I've been reading. It starts out in San Francisco. The year is 2052, and we see the Golden Gate Bridge. But it's a bit different in the future. Have we reached flying cars? No, not like the spacecrafts and the Jetsons. Maybe more like the car types we have in the Fifth Element movie? But it's neither. I particularly love that the main tower openings are now used as different levels for the cars to drive through. In our time, almost everything has a facade. From people showing an elaborate life they don't live, to filters that we use to present ourselves in what we believe to be a better representation of who we are, or just for fun. Now think in 2052 that we can live and use something called a veil. So our filters/veils are not just for the phone. Your eyes are now the filter. The filter for your eyes will let you see what you want to see. Everyone looks like how they looked in the 1980s because it's your favorite era. You want to see everyone as zombies? No problem. Now veils have to be registered so your partner would know your veil that you use regularly. Your partner wouldn't put a filter/veil on you, right? But you can always get an unregistered one called a black veil. So your partner doesn't know that you would rather have a veil on them than see the real them. How do you combat someone trying to use a black veil on you? Well, this guy, Detective Sam Dunes, one of the only people that doesn't want to see a filter but rather be normal. Or in this world, they call it clear. That's the name. But let's think about it. What if you couldn't see reality anymore? Not realizing that the company that controls the filter/veils decides what you should see. Would you know the difference? How far is too far? Detective Sam Dunes is himself towing the line of wanting to be in a clear world, or the veil world. The brilliant people that made clear are Scott Snyder and Francis Manapul. Scott Snyder has written work for Marvel, such as Iron Man, and many others, and has written work for DC for years, from Batman, Justice League, Swamp Thing, Death Metal, and American Vampire. Scott has also written Voodoo Heart and Witches. Scott mentioned when the pandemic hit, all of us retracted. I gave everyone a choice to find work with DC or Marvel comics that have more financial security. Scott Snyder was asked if he wanted to go back to DC Comics. And Marvel Comics even extended a hand because of the lack of uncertainty. But Scott Snyder was planning for 10 years to make his own content. All the creators that he asked fantastically wanted to stay. Scott Snyder said he wanted his friends that are amazing creators to be able to give them a good page rate and security during these difficult times. But on top of that, a way that doesn't burden fans. So Scott decided to do a deal with a digital subscription for comics called Comixology, where we would put out many original comics on their platform that were all free. If you have a subscription with Comixology, which costs $5.99 a month. These original comics will be called Comixology Unlimited. Scott explains that Francis came and visited Scott Snyder's family, and Francis brought his daughter and wife. This was a few years ago. Scott Snyder asked Francis Manapul what concept did he want to do together. And Francis said, I want to do something about what our kids face. Scott Snyder said to Francis, well, let's talk about it. What's your big fears? Francis Manapul said, one fear is everything they like gets thrown back at them all the time. More and more of the same, the algorithmic search engine, everything like, oh, you like that? Here's more of it. And it doesn't challenge them. Scott Snyder said, well, let's create a sci-fi world together that's built on where you can choose whatever you want to see and nothing else. So that's where the comic Clear came from. On Comixology, you could see Scott's collaborations with other brilliant creators like Barnstormers, Night of the Ghoul. We have Demons, Dudley Datson and the Forever Machine, Canary, The Book of Evil, Duck and Cover, and of course, Clear. Scott Snyder mentioned none of them are concepts that I pitched to the creators. The concept was pitched together. Scott Snyder has really been able to enjoy and plan for the next steps. On Comixology, he owns the rights to his work, and Scott says it's been the best year plus of my life, like working on it creatively, because don't get me wrong, like I love working on Batman and on metal and that stuff. There's no greater joy. But this, being able to make your own stuff with your friends and have no creative limitations and none of the grind and the pressure the same way, I love it. Francis Manapul has done cover work for Marvel and DC, such as Dark Ages, Robin, Flash, Aquaman the Becoming, and many more. Francis Manapul said the artist involved in this thing is just insane. It's daunting because how do you stand out in a group of these amazing talent? But at the same time, it's also so cool. We're all working on different books. It feels more like a community, like a team. From Murder and Lies, we are seeing what life does Detective Sam Doon want to pick, and the true dangers of the new crimes this new veiled world may be committing. Check it out.